My name is Carol Jones, and I'm in my early 50s. My husband passed away early, leaving me with a newborn daughter and a small house. From that day on, I worked and invested, not to show off or to lord over anyone, but so that my daughter, Jessica, would never have to bow her head due to her circumstances. They say a woman raising a child alone becomes tough. That is probably true. But I still live a simple life. I wear ordinary clothes, work part-time at a local office, and absolutely do not flaunt my money. I enjoy the feeling of being underestimated, only to surprise people when they realize they misjudged me. Jessica, my daughter, is 29. Since she was little, she was ambitious, persistent, but sometimes so clumsy it was comical. When she grew up, she went to college and then worked an office job, so focused that she rarely dated. I thought she was like me. She didn't want to waste time on trivial things. Until one day she told me someone wanted to meet me. Mom, his name is Charlie. We've only been dating for 3 months. I looked into my daughter's eyes and saw an unusual light, the light of someone who was seriously considering something. That afternoon, when the front door opened, I saw a young man of average height, with an unassuming but neat build. He stepped in, his hands shaking slightly, holding a carefully wrapped gift box. My name is Charlie. Jessica and I have been dating for 3 months. It's a great honor to meet you. His bow was not perfunctory. It showed genuine respect. I accepted the gift and smiled. You're a good man, much too good for my daughter. After I said that, I saw the young man blush, and Jessica exclaimed, Mom, and glared at me. During dinner, Charlie spoke with measure, not trying to be overly charming, but remaining polite. I told him a few stories from Jessica's childhood, back when she had short hair, was always dirty, and ran around all day, and watched his reaction. His laughter was genuine, not forced. After that day, the two of them often came to visit me. One day, I roasted sweet potatoes, a dish Jessica loved since she was little, and saw that Charlie was just as delighted as a child. He asked me a few questions about movies, and occasionally about investing, but never showed any intention of taking advantage of the relationship. I noticed he was a good listener, something not many young men are capable of. I didn't ask about marriage. I believed that was for them to decide. My daughter's happiness was the only thing I cared about. But at my age, I was perceptive enough to realize that, barring any surprises, Charlie would be a long-term partner for her. 6 months after our first meeting, Charlie knocked on my door with a slightly shy smile, but his eyes were more confident than before. As we sat down at the tea table, he said, Carol, next month is Mother's Day. I'd like to invite you and Jessica out for dinner, just the three of us. I know a place I'm sure you'll like. I looked over at Jessica. The girl was both surprised and happy. She asked me with her eyes, and I nodded. That's fine. I never turn down a good meal. On the day of our reservation, Charlie personally drove us to a famous Chinese restaurant in the city center. The glass doors were gleaming, with crystal chandeliers hanging high inside, their golden light reflecting on the red lanterns. Our table was a large, lazy Susan, with a pristine white tablecloth, and a set of porcelain dishes with gold rims was already laid out. I recognized it instantly. I had been here a few times before. Oh, I know this place. I used to eat here back in the day. Charlie was a little surprised, then smiled. That's good then. I just guessed you might like it. I complimented him. You guessed right. I like places that are both sophisticated and not too flashy. He blushed. We sat down. Charlie had already ordered the restaurant's special set menu and chatted animatedly about a movie I had recommended last time. Jessica listened, interjecting a few words, occasionally smiling as she watched the two of us talk. I could feel my daughter's happiness. The dishes were brought out in courses, the fragrant smell of dumplings, the sweet and savory taste of black bean sauce meat, and the light ginger aroma of the crab soup filling the air. Just as I picked up a dumpling, a shrill woman's voice rang out from behind us, cutting through everything. Oh, so you're slumming it here, are you? The voice was sharp as a blade, not a greeting, but a taunt for attention. I saw Charlie freeze, his chopsticks suspended in midair, then turn his head. Sarah. His voice was low, slightly hoarse. I turned slightly to get a better look. Standing behind Jessica was a woman in her 40s, wearing a form-fitting business dress. She stood with her arms crossed, her condescending eyes sweeping over us. She gave a half smile. I'm Sarah Murphy, Foreign Currency Deposit Department, New York Bank, Charlie's former boss. I knew New York Bank. one of the largest banks in the country. People who work there often carry an aura of confidence. But Sarah's look wasn't just confident. It was something I recognized very clearly, the attitude of someone who believes they are above others. She glanced at Jessica and me, her lips curling up. Different classes, aren't we? A guy who fell out of the elite circle, a girl working for a bottom-tier company, and a part-time old lady. Jessica froze. Charlie clenched his chopsticks, his eyes turning red, but I remained seated with my back straight, placing my chopsticks down gently, making no sound. Only one sentence came out: eat it before it gets cold. I didn't want to cause a scene in the restaurant, but I memorized every word, every look from Sarah. My experience showed me that people like this will harm themselves if you know how to set the right circumstances. I picked up a piece of meat, not looking at her, but I could still sense Sarah standing there for a few more seconds before walking away with a mocking smile. The atmosphere at the table became a little heavy, but I kept my composure as if nothing had happened. We continued eating. However, I didn't know that this dinner was not over yet, in the worst possible way. We ate in silence for a few more minutes, as if all three of us had agreed to ignore the unpleasant presence. But it felt as if a pair of eyes was still lingering, watching our every move. I learned long ago that people who pay too much attention to you in a public place either want to take advantage of you or want to start a fight. I was raising my teacup when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure move quickly toward our table. A hand reached out, and then, "Get away, you social trash." Sarah's voice rang out, grating like a knife scraping against glass. Plop. A hot dumpling with its meat filling and sauce splattered everywhere hit my left cheek directly. A burning sensation spread across my skin, and the pungent smell of sesame oil and meat rose. Jessica jumped up. "Mom, are you okay?" Her voice was shaky, her hands fumbling for a napkin. Charlie stood up, flustered, about to call a restaurant employee. I held up a hand to stop him. No need. I picked up a napkin and slowly wiped my face. Every movement was deliberately slow, as if to regain the rhythm of our table. I didn't want them to see me in a rush or flustered. Then I looked up, my eyes fixed on Sarah. Throwing food, especially hot food, is wrong. My voice was even and low, but I knew there was a cold blade in it. Sarah burst into laughter, a crisp but hollow laugh, as if she was trying to hide a fleeting moment of insecurity. I placed the napkin down, turned my chair completely. "You are Sarah Murphy, from the Foreign Currency Deposit Department of New York Bank, correct?" She raised an eyebrow slightly. "Yes. Why?" I smiled very faintly, just enough to show the corners of my lips. "Then you're probably not senile yet. Still doing a good part-time job. I'll remember you, until tomorrow. That's all. No more, no less." I stood up. Jessica quickly grabbed her bag and Charlie followed closely. I walked out of the restaurant with a straight posture, not looking back, but with a very clear vision of that tomorrow in my head. When we got into the car, Jessica grabbed my hand. "Mom, let me." I waved my hand. "It's not your fault. It's not Charlie's fault. I'm fine." But inside, a coldness spread through me. A coldness not of fear, but of calculation. I didn't get angry immediately. I never wasted energy on getting angry in front of the person who just insulted me. Instead, I stored that anger in a separate drawer in my mind, and I knew that drawer would open very soon. The next morning, the night's rain had just stopped, and the air had a slight damp scent. I sat in my home office, a steaming cup of Earl Grey tea on my desk, my computer screen open to the market tracker. Every number that jumped on the screen was a chess piece, and I was used to moving them as I pleased. I remembered Sarah's face last night, her triumph at the thought that she had humiliated me. She didn't know that this game wasn't played at a dinner table. The real game was starting this morning. I picked up the phone and dialed the familiar number for the special client department at New York Bank. The operator's voice came on. "Hello, New York Bank. How may I help you?" "This is Carol Jones. My deposit contract number is—" I read it slowly, each word as clear as a nail being hammered. "I want to terminate the entire contract early. $150 million, withdrawn completely, to be transferred to the bank I will designate. The deadline, before the end of the month." There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by the sound of frantic paper shuffling. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" "Number personal reasons. The deadline has been clearly stated. Please record it verbatim." "Oh, I ended the call before the person could find any more words of persuasion. I knew this phone call was like a stone thrown into a still pond. In a few hours, the ripples would become big waves, and someone would come looking for me. Just as I predicted, around early afternoon, Jessica and Charlie knocked on the door. Charlie looked completely different from usual. His shoulders were tense, his eyes strained. "Ma'am, who are you?" he asked, almost gasping for breath. "I'm Jessica's mother. Why?" I took a sip of tea, raising my eyes to look at him. "This morning the bank received a call saying you want to withdraw all your funds. The boss and several high-level people are in a frenzy. I I don't understand what's happening." I smiled, tying my apron. "I just want to change partners. It's a normal thing." And at that very moment, the doorbell rang. I knew the guests had arrived earlier than I expected. "Kids, come in. Stay and watch." Uh. The door opened, and standing on my porch was a man in an expensive suit, with beads of sweat on his forehead and collar. He held a luxurious gift bag, and behind him was Sarah, who was no longer crossing her arms or holding her head high, but standing slightly bowed, her hands clasped together. "Mrs. Carol Jones, I am the president of New York Bank. We heard you want to terminate your contract. May I ask for the reason?" His voice held a hint of urgency. I stepped back to let them in. "We will talk about the reason right now." We sat around the living room table. I deliberately left the distance between me and Sarah just close enough for her to feel my presence, but not close enough for her to feel safe. The bank president spoke first, his voice a little shaky, even though he tried to maintain a professional demeanor. "Mrs. Carroll, $150 million is not a small amount. If you cancel the contract, the bank will suffer a huge loss. We truly hope you will reconsider." He tilted my head, looking over at Sarah. "What did you say yesterday at the restaurant?" "Ah, that's right, different classes. Feeling nauseous being in the same room with someone of a lower class. Well, holding my money must be even worse." The president spun around to face Sarah, his voice sharp. "You said that? Do you have any idea who this woman is?" Sarah was silent. Sweat beaded on her temples. He turned back to me, his expression almost regretful. "My apologies for the disrespect. Mrs. Carol Jones, you are one of the top 3 investors in America, a legend in the financial world. I truly don't understand how this could have happened." I leaned back in my chair, my eyes calm. "As I said on the phone, before the end of the month, transfer all the money to the bank I designate. There is no negotiation." Sarah immediately knelt down, her hands clasped together, her voice cracking. I, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were." I cut her off, my voice as cold as ice. "If you judge people by their appearance and their job, then whether you knew who I was or not, the result would be the same. I cannot trust a place that employs someone like you with my money." The room fell silent, with only the ticking of a clock's second hand. The bank president raised a hand to wipe his face, then looked up, his eyes seeming to give a command. "Sarah, apologize now and get out of here." Oh, but I knew this was just the prelude, because in this room there were still many unspoken truths. The bank president cleared his throat. It was clear he wanted to close the matter with a few apologies and keep my contract, but life isn't that simple. He turned to Charlie, seeming to just notice him. "Excuse me, but did you and Sarah know each other?" Charlie looked up, his eyes now unwavering. "Yes. I worked at New York Bank a few years ago. Sarah was my mentor when I first joined. She tried to approach me, suggesting a relationship I didn't want. When I refused, she started blaming me for her mistakes, even losing important documents and shifting the responsibility onto me. I was isolated, and in the end, I had to quit." The room was so silent, I could hear the long, heavy sigh of the bank president. His face turned red, not just from anger, but from shame. "Sarah," he gritted his teeth, "is this true?" Sarah lowered her head, mumbling, I, I just wanted to get promoted." "By ruining others?" Charlie shot back, his voice like a knife. I watched and realized that the president's eyes were not just those of a disappointed superior. There was something more personal, the disappointment of someone who had been betrayed. I tilted my head, looking straight at him. "You also have a relationship with her." A heavy silence followed. He lowered his head, and a tear, not sweat, fell onto the carpet. Sarah didn't object, she just stayed still. In a split second, all the pieces fell into place. Sarah not only played games with her subordinates like Charlie, but also leveraged her illicit relationships with her superiors, including the president, to climb the ladder. A dangerous strategy, and ultimately, self destructive. The president turned back to Charlie, clinging to a way out. Would you like to come back to New York Bank? I'll give you a very good position, with a worthy salary and bonus. Charlie looked at him, his eyes unblinking. Number, I don't want to go back to a place where a junior has to take the blame for the boss, and a mentor is forced into dirty relationships just to survive. I let out a soft laugh, then clapped my hands once decisively. It's all clear now. I don't need to hear anything more. From now on, only contact me to finalize the transfer. And now, I invite both of you to leave my house. Sarah looked up, her eyes filled with despair. But I knew her life had entered a new game, and this time, she was not the one in control. The very next day, my $150 million were dispersed and transferred on schedule to the bank I designated, where Charlie was working. The process was unusually fast, and I knew they did it not just because of protocol, but because they were afraid I would change my mind at the last minute and bring in the media or other investors. At the new bank, Charlie's name suddenly became very well known. People whispered about a supersized client who had transferred all her assets here and that he was the direct manager. I heard rumors that, within the next 6 months, he would almost certainly be promoted. Jessica didn't say it out loud, but I saw the look in her eyes when she looked at Charlie, a look of both pride and comfort. And Sarah? She was fired the very next day. The decision was signed so quickly that other employees thought it was just a rumor, but the rumor was just the beginning. A former colleague of Charlie's began to recount how Sarah had harassed and sabotaged him. Another revealed her relationship with the president. And then, the wives of the gentlemen on Sarah's list of lovers all collectively demanded compensation. Sarah's marriage was ruined. She was drowning in debt. In a fit of pique, she even went to the New York Bank president's wife to confess, not out of remorse, but because she didn't want to be the only one suffering. The result? The woman calmly signed another request for compensation. Since then, no one has seen Sarah anywhere. Some say she moved to another state. Others say she fled the country. To me, it doesn't matter. The game was over. I wasn't happy or gleeful. There was only one feeling. Peace had returned. And peace to me is the most luxurious thing that money can't buy, but power can. 3 months passed quickly. The season had changed, and the trees along the road changed color as a reminder that everything can change, even people. Jessica, Charlie, and I were in the car again, heading toward the city center. Our goal today? The same luxurious Chinese restaurant from that day. Not because I wanted to relive the unpleasant memory, but because I believe a bad experience should not be the end of a place that once brought joy. Walking through the glass doors, the cool air from the air conditioner and the aroma of ginger, garlic, and sesame oil immediately rushed in. The staff welcomed us with polite smiles. There was no mocking laughter, no condescending looks. Only the sound of the lazy Susan turning and the fragrant smell of food. Jessica smiled. Mom, this time it's to make up for the Mother's Day we missed, okay? I nodded. It's also my way of making it up to you two. That wasn't your fault. We ate in peace. Midway through the meal, I placed my teacup down and looked at Charlie. Even if you two break up, I won't change my investment manager. I like a relationship where feelings don't get mixed up with business. Uh, Jessica's eyes widened. Mom. Charlie blushed, stammering. I swear, unless Jessica doesn't want to, we will never leave each other. I chuckled softly. You sound just like Jessica's father when he was young, fiery but upright. Jessica looked at the mirror on the wall and saw her cheeks were as red as if she had been drinking, even though she hadn't had a single drop. I didn't say it out loud, but I knew in my heart. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a short phone call, a clear deadline, and a person who knows exactly when to press the button. The meal ended with laughter. And this time, no one threw anything at anyone. There was only the sweet taste of dessert and the peace, something I always knew how to hold on to at any cost.